Hello, and thank you for joining me for Financial Aid 101 for the 2024-2025 academic year. The intended audience for this presentation is any student or parent of a student who will be attending college in fall 2024 and spring 2025 and need information about financial aid and how to apply for financial aid. My name is Deanna, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Joliet Junior College. Most of the information in this presentation is general financial aid information and therefore should be helpful no matter which college you may be thinking of attending. Thanks for being here. Let's jump right in. Today we will discuss what financial aid is, where to get started on applying for financial aid, the changes to the process under the FAFSA Simplification Act, cost of attendance, and the types and sources of financial aid that a student may be eligible for. Although this presentation is geared toward students who are applying for the 2024-2025 academic year, we will make mention in a few areas of what the process is for the 2023-2024 award year as well. High school seniors who are planning to begin college in 2024 summer semester should plan to complete both the 2023-24 and the 2024-25 FAFSA applications. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is a broad term that refers to any program that offers financial assistance towards the cost of pursuing an education. This could include grants and scholarships, but it could also include money that a student has to pay back, such as student loans. The general eligibility requirements for federal financial aid are that the student is a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and a Social Security number is required to complete the application. A student must attend a college that is approved for federal funding. They must be seeking a financial aid eligible degree or certificate. They must maintain satisfactory academic progress, and that is defined differently by each school, so you'll want to check with your financial aid office on how they define this. They must not owe a refund on a federal grant. They must not be in default on a student loan, and they must demonstrate financial need as determined by FAFSA results. So how do you apply? Well, the first step is to complete the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. You do this online at studentaid.gov. Allow a few business days for your school to receive the results of your FAFSA. Big changes are coming to the FAFSA application for the 2024-2025 aid year. These changes, brought about by the FAFSA Simplification Act, passed by Congress in 2020, represent the first major redesign of the FAFSA process in over 40 years. The goal is to make applying for federal student aid easier for students, as well as expand eligibility for federal student aid. We will also see some terminology changes this year. For example, an expected family contribution, or EFC, is being replaced by a student aid index, or SAI. We will talk more about some of these changes later in the presentation. We hope you enjoy the new user experience on the FAFSA. Due to the FAFSA simplification implementation, the 2024-2025 FAFSA is delayed and will be available sometime in December 2023. As of the date of this recording, there is no set date yet in December. This delay is only expected to impact the 2024-2025 FAFSA. So going forward, the student will want to apply beginning every October 1st each year for the following academic school year. FAFSA is a yearly process. We recommend students submit the FAFSA as soon as possible every year after the application becomes available because some awards, such as state grants, can be first come, first serve and may run out. In order to complete a FAFSA, the student will need an FSA ID username and password. If the student is considered a dependent student, the parent will also need their own FSA ID username and password. The 2024-2025 FAFSA may determine that additional contributors' information is needed, such as a step parent if applicable. Each contributor will need their own FSA username and ID. Beginning with 2024-2025, contributors who do not have a Social Security number will still be able to create an FSA ID. As of the date of this recording, we are still awaiting more information from the Department of Education on when this feature will be available. The student and any other potential contributor should create their FSA ID as soon as possible. You will not be able to create your FSA ID and submit the FAFSA on the same day due to the verification process that takes place for the FSA ID. All contributors are also going to want to gather their income and tax information. Gather 2022 income and tax information if you are completing the 2024-2025 FAFSA. Also, decide which colleges should receive the student's FAFSA information. It can now be sent up to 20 colleges. If the student is completing the 2023-2024 FAFSA, we recommend that they, as well as their parent, use the IRS data retrieval tool on the income section of the FAFSA if they are presented with the option to do so. The data retrieval tool links directly to the IRS site and transfers income and tax information automatically. It's easy, fast, and accurate. There are some situations when a student or parent is unable to use the data retrieval tool listed on this slide. If the requirements to use the tool are not met, the tool will not be presented as an option, and all tax and income information will need to be manually entered into the FAFSA from tax returns and W-2s. Beginning with the 2024-2025 FAFSA, each contributor will be invited via email to log into the FAFSA using the required FSA ID and complete their information as well as electronically sign the FAFSA form. Part of this process will require contributors to consent and approve to retrieve their federal tax information from the IRS via a direct data exchange. Contributors will be able to be logged in and completing their individual portions of the FAFSA at the same time. The student will be able to see once all contributors have completed their portion and will then be able to submit their FAFSA for processing. The Department of Education is requiring that each contributor consent and approve to retrieve the FTI via the direct data exchange. If any contributor refuses, the student will not receive a student aid index and will not be eligible for student aid. When the student is completing the FAFSA, the form will ask a series of questions to determine if they are considered an independent or dependent student. If the student meets any of the criteria listed on this slide, then they will be considered an independent student for purposes of the FAFSA. This slide shows some additional questions that are asked on the FAFSA, and if the student can answer yes to any of them, they may also be considered an independent student. If the student does not meet any of the criteria to be considered an independent student, either from this slide or the previous slide, then they are considered a dependent student for purposes of the FAFSA and will be required to submit the parent income and tax data on the FAFSA in addition to their own. After the student submits the FAFSA, they will receive a FAFSA submission summary. They should verify that the information on the FAFSA submission summary is correct. If any corrections are needed, return to the FAFSA site, make the corrections, and then resubmit. On a 2023-2024 FAFSA, the student will be assigned an expected family contribution, also known as an EFC. On a 2024-2025 FAFSA, EFC was replaced by Student Aid Index, or SAI. An EFC of 0 or SAI of negative 1,500 indicate the highest need students. Schools use these numbers to determine financial aid eligibility and awards. When colleges receive the FAFSA information, they will send communication outlining a financial aid package. This may be sent to a student email account or be on the student's school portal. So if you haven't already, make sure to complete an admissions application for each school that was listed on the FAFSA so you know how they plan to communicate with you. Be sure to read financial aid offers carefully. Some schools will require that you accept or reject an award. Always know what you are accepting. For example, student loans must be repaid with interest. If the student does forget to add a school or has changed their mind on the school they are interested in attending, they can always log back into the FAFSA and add or change the school codes and resubmit. Some students are selected by the Department of Education or by the school for a process called verification. If selected for this process, the school must collect additional documentation in order to verify that the data on the FAFSA is accurate. The student may be required to provide documents such as tax return transcripts from the IRS, a verification worksheet, and other supporting documentation. Make sure to review all communication received from your school's financial aid office, as they may be requesting these items in order to continue processing a financial aid package. Financial aid may not be awarded or released until the verification process is completed. And depending on the school and the time of year, this process may take a couple of weeks. There are some cases that are considered special or unusual circumstances. In these cases, the data on a FAFSA may be able to be updated by a financial aid administrator at your school to better reflect a current situation. If there's been a qualified change of circumstances, such as a significant loss of household income from a job loss or a divorce, the student may be eligible for a special circumstances appeal to have the income adjusted on the FAFSA. And in certain cases, students may qualify for a dependency override, which would reclassify them from a dependent student to an independent student and would exclude them from having to provide parental data on their FAFSA. Circumstances such as abandonment by parents, unable to locate parents, death of parents, incarceration of parents, etc., may warrant an override. If the student is experiencing either of these situations, reach out to the school's financial aid office to determine their process. Each school has determined its own average cost of attendance per student, which is composed of various expenses such as tuition, books, living expenses, and transportation. In 2024-2025, to determine what type of financial aid awards the student will be eligible for, the school will take their cost of attendance and subtract the SAI amount that was calculated from the student's FAFSA. If the SAI is a negative number, a SAI of 0 will be used in this calculation. Any other financial assistance will also be subtracted. The leftover amount is considered the unmet need and the school's financial aid office will use various resources to help cover the unmet need for the student. Per federal regulation, total awards can never exceed the cost of attendance. These are some of the types of aid that a student may see on their award or offer letter from a college. We'll talk about each of these a little bit more in detail on the next few slides. Because of significant changes with FAFSA simplification, we've split out Pell information for each award year on multiple slides. For 2023-2024, Pell Grant is a federal aid that the student does not repay as long as they attend and successfully complete their classes. The maximum annual amount changes yearly. For a standard academic calendar school using semesters, the maximum annual amount that a student might receive is $7,395 and would be split in half over fall and spring semester. Additional Pell may be available to students who attend in a summer semester. The annual award amount a student receives is based on their EFC and estimated full-time attendance, which is typically 12 credit hours or more. Students who do not attend full-time will receive a prorated Pell Award based on their actual enrollment status. The Pell Grant can run out. There is a lifetime maximum of 600%, which is the equivalent of 6 years of full-time attendance for grant eligibility. For 2024-2025, Pell Grant is still federal aid that the student does not have to repay as long as they attend and successfully complete their classes. The maximum annual amount changes yearly. As of the date of this recording, the 2024-2025 amount has not yet been released. For a standard academic calendar school using semesters, the maximum annual amount that a student might receive is split in half over fall and spring semester. Additional Pell may be available to students who attend in the summer. The annual award amount a student receives is based on several factors such as adjusted gross income, family size, federal poverty guidelines, and the Student Aid Index, which we will show in detail on the next slide. The award is also based on estimated full-time attendance, which is 12 credit hours or more. Students who do not attend full-time will receive a prorated Pell Award based on their enrollment intensity, which is a percentage value based on the actual number of credit hours. And still, Pell Grant can run out. There is a lifetime maximum of 600%, which is the equivalent of 6 years of full-time attendance for grant eligibility. For 2024-2025, a student will be evaluated under 3 different criteria to determine if they can be awarded the Pell Grant. First, they will be evaluated under the maximum Pell Grant section. I will not read all of these to you, but you can see the chart is broken up by whether the student is a dependent student or an independent student, and then the criteria that they or their parent could meet to be eligible for maximum Pell. If the student does not qualify for maximum Pell, then they are evaluated under the calculated scheduled Pell Grant section. This formula takes the maximum annual Pell Grant amount minus the Student Aid Index and results in the student's calculated schedule Pell Grant. So, for example, if the maximum annual Pell Award for 2024-2025 was $7,850, and if the student's SAI was $1,002, we would subtract the $1,002 from the $7,850, and after the required rounding, the result would be an annual Pell Award of $6,850 for that student. If the student has such a high SAI that they still do not qualify for any Pell under the calculated scheduled Pell Grant formula, then they move on to be evaluated for minimum Pell Grant. Again, the chart here breaks it down by dependent and independent student and shows the criteria that must be met for minimum Pell. If the student does not meet any of the criteria under any of these three methods, then the student would not be eligible for any Pell Grant. Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is another federal grant that the student does not have to repay as long as they are attending and successfully completing courses. SEOG is a limited funded grant. It is based on financial need and is awarded to students with the lowest EFC or SAI. The amount of the SEOG award will vary by school. And because this grant has limited funding, there are far fewer students who will receive this grant than the Pell Grant. The Monetary Award Program, or MAP grant, is an Illinois-based grant. The student must be an Illinois resident and attend an Illinois institution to receive this grant. This is state aid that the student does not have to repay. MAP grant only pays tuition costs and mandatory fees. The maximum annual award amount changes each year, but the student's award amount will vary based on the type of institution that they are attending and the student's EFC or SAI. MAP grant is not available in the summer semester. The RISE Act was created to help students who were not eligible for federal aid to still be eligible to apply and potentially receive the Monetary Award Program grant. There is a separate application for these students called the Alternative Application for Illinois Financial Aid, and you can find this alternative app at isac.org. It's also typically available October 1st every year, just like the FAFSA is. However, for 2024-2025, it will also be available sometime in December 2023. Federal Work Study is another award a student may see on an offer letter. This is considered earned aid because the student will be employed at and working at the college to earn a paycheck. Work study jobs are convenient because they are on the college campus and are flexible around the student's class schedule. Student loans are another type of financial aid. The federal government offers subsidized student loans and unsubsidized student loans, and we'll go into each of these on the next few slides. Both types of loans must be repaid with interest. Let's talk about subsidized loans first. Student loans are funds that must be repaid with interest. Subsidized loans are need-based loans, meaning the student must have unmet need remaining after the calculation that we discussed earlier in this video. When attending college, the interest on this type of loan is paid by the federal government. The student must be attending college at least half-time, which is typically 6 to 8 credit hours, to be eligible. The first repayment on this type of loan would be due 6 months after the last date of attendance or 6 months after you drop below half-time attendance. The interest rate changes every July. Refer to studentaid.gov for the most current rates. And these loans are not based on a credit history. Unsubsidized loans are very similar to subsidized loans, so I will only point out the major differences. Unsubsidized loans are not need-based, and interest on the loans is charged to the student while they are attending college. There are limits of how much a student can borrow each year and in each category of unsubsidized and subsidized. These limits are consistent no matter which school a student chooses to attend because these are the annual federal limits. For example, a first year dependent student annual limit is $5,500 and no more than $3,500 of that can be in a subsidized loan. There are also lifetime limits to how much a student can borrow, and I would refer you to studentaid.gov to review these lifetime limits. There are also loans called PLUS loans, where the parent is the borrower. The parent must be creditworthy and complete a PLUS loan application at studentaid.gov. It is important to note that PLUS loan repayment begins right after the last disbursement and that the interest rate is higher. Scholarships are another type of award that a student may see on the financial aid offer letter. We encourage the students to look for scholarship opportunities at each individual college they've applied at. This slide and the next slide are the only two slides today that are specific to JJC and those students thinking of attending JJC. So if a student is considering attending Joliet Junior College, they can apply for scholarships between October 1st and May 1st each year for the following fall semester. These are a few additional scholarships that are currently available at Joliet Junior College for in-demand career fields. If interested, I encourage you to read more about each opportunity at the link provided here. Again, we recommend that students apply for scholarships. There are thousands of dollars of scholarships that go unused each year because people do not apply for them. In addition to checking at each individual college, here are some free scholarship search sites to check out. We never recommend that you pay a fee for scholarship searches. If you need assistance in completing the FAFSA or alternative application, that's what we're here for. There are helpful videos available on our website, jjc.edu/financial aid. You can also view our upcoming schedule for financial aid application completion nights on our website. 2024-2025 financial aid application completion nights will begin in January 2024. You do not need to be a JJC student or planning to attend JJC to get assistance. Our services are open to the community. We also offer virtual and in-person appointments. You can call our office to schedule those. If you are planning to attend a completion night or an appointment, be sure that all contributors for the FAFSA create their FSA IDs several days prior so that there are no delays in submitting the FAFSA. And don't forget to have copies of federal income tax forms, W-2s, and any other asset and income information available. Some final tips and reminders. Financial aid, as I mentioned, is a yearly process. So complete the FAFSA every year on October 1st. Apply early as the process is not over just when you submit your FAFSA. There may always be additional forms and documents that your school is requesting. Remember your FSA ID and password or store it somewhere secure. You're going to need this every year to complete the FAFSA. Tax return and income information is needed every year when completing the FAFSA, so make sure you store those somewhere secure as well. We always recommend adding your local community college to the FAFSA. JJC's school code is 001699 if you'd like to add us. This will minimize any delays in financial aid processing in the event of a last-minute decision to stay local. Use the internet to collect information on financial aid and on preparing for college cost. There's a ton of information out there as well as on your college's financial aid websites and portals. So just take some time to do some research. Make sure to complete an admissions application at each school listed on the FAFSA so that they can begin communicating with you via their student email or student portal system about your financial aid opportunities with their institution. Ask questions. That's what your school's financial aid offices are there for. And consider all options available. Keep copies of all the forms and worksheets for your records that you may be submitting to the school's financial aid office. Inform your financial aid office if you have any major changes affecting your family's income. And of course, read all the communication that's coming from the Department of Education, as well as colleges, as there may be important information or deadlines in there. And speaking of deadlines, start early and plan ahead so that you can meet all deadlines. State grants do run out as they are first come, first serve, so be sure to submit the FAFSA or alternative application as soon as possible after every October 1st. Some colleges need to require additional forms or verification documents, so check with your college about what they require and the deadlines that you must meet. And some colleges require students to file their FAFSA by a particular deadline. So again, just be sure to check with your college's financial aid office. And colleges typically have a payment due date that you will need to meet or risk losing the classes that you're registered for. You'll want to know when this payment due date is and be sure that your financial aid is finalized long before that date comes. Here's a list of the helpful resources, many of which I have mentioned throughout this presentation. If you have any other general questions about financial aid, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can see our contact information here on this slide. And don't forget to visit our website at jjc.edu/financial aid to view more help videos. Thank you for joining me today. I hope it was helpful and have a great day.